All right. So, informational diversity is this idea that people with different backgrounds and experiences know different things. So imagine, if you will, all of your opinions being based on this one book. Let's say, for example, that you decide that all your opinions on breakfast food, pointer, is going to be based on Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham. That would be a pretty bad idea, right? It would be a bad idea for a couple of reasons. Maybe, for example, Dr. Seuss doesn't adequately disclose the calorie count of his green eggs and ham in his book. Or maybe you don't want to make unfounded assumptions about what your next breakfast will be like. Maybe you're disappointed that it's not green. Either way, knowing what to expect in advance is really important. That's why I'll be talking about informational diversity today. So first, a lot of us get our opinions from our friends, which what could possibly go wrong with that? According to the study from the Public Library of Science, when faced with the opinions of our peers on a given issue, people tend to filter and integrate the social information they receive and adjust their own beliefs accordingly. So what that guy is saying is that you listen to your friends, which I guess everyone does, so that's cool. But what's less cool is that whenever you listen to your friends, you forget that your friends represent a limited worldview. So consider this. You spend, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, 36 weeks a year in school. What that means is that a lot of the times, the relationships you have gained are a direct result of you going to school. And a lot of your friends at school have similar experiences. Maybe you both share the same math class, or maybe you do the same activities. Either way, what this means is that overall, the people you are exposed to generally went through the same life that you did. In terms of informational diversity, that means that because the people you know generally go through the same life you do, the differences you experience aren't a result of you guys, for example, having drastically different worldviews. It's a result of you guys having the same life and despite that having differences. Moving on to the next way we get information, books. Now, books obviously, theoretically, are a great idea, even if nobody has time to read them, because books are supposed to inform you about the drastically different lives of other people, right? The issue is that because books are supposed to inform you about the drastically different lives of other people, there's this one thing that's always present in them, which is author bias. So according to Colo's State, every author has opinions that affect his or her discussion of an issue. Even the most seemingly factual reports, such as like an encyclopedia article, can carry understated or implied judgment. So what that guy is basically saying is that, hey, look, everybody has judgment. And like you might be thinking why judgment is like bad, because obviously judgment can be good in a couple of other ways. For example, judgment is what lets you know what you should wear to a TEDx talk. Or judgment is what lets you know whether you should make that decision. But judgment in terms of author bias can be a bit dangerous because that means that the author who is supposed to inform you about the lives of other people can actually do so in a way that undermines the core message, which is to learn truthfully about different lives. So keeping this in mind, I look toward Merriam-Webster's definition of personal bias. Merriam-Webster defines bias as personal judgment. And then using this definition, I thought about things that might affect your personal judgment. Things, for example, like where you grew up, UpperStClair, United States, your gender, I guess your race. And using these factors, I decided to analyze the authors I have read over the past year. Now, you guys can look at these graphs and come to your own conclusions, but right here is the gender of authors required reading for school. The graph says it all. Gender of authors, personal choice reading, the graph also says it all. And then I also analyzed things like country of origin for these authors. Now, obviously, I'm not saying like the books you have to read have to perfectly reflect the human population, but what I am saying is that just think about who your authors are. Like, for example, I realized after looking through the list of who I read this past year that the majority of people I read were like white British males. You can see this really big blue bar right here. Personal choice reading. Like whenever you keep that in mind, it lets you understand who you're reading, what their personal opinions may be, and because of that, you're able to better understand what you're reading. Now moving on to internet. So obviously, like I said before, nobody really has time to read books anymore, so you obviously just get back from school, go to the computer, look through the internet. Usually, internet is a good thing, right? Because first of all, it lets you relax, but second of all, it allows you to, for example, look toward a wide range of opinions that you don't have access to otherwise. However, there are a couple of issues with internet, and I really don't like fear-mongering about how internet is like killing all the good things in life, but it's true that internet is making it easier for other people to fear-monger about how internet is killing all the good things in life. So, how is internet killing all the good things in life? Well, according to the SAID from the Public Library of Science again, people sharing similar extreme opinions tend to basically, help each other out, tend to build their judgment and confidence after they interact with people who have their same beliefs. So what this guy is saying is that after you start interacting with people who share extreme views like you do, for example, racial prejudices, what ends up happening is that you suddenly reinforce your belief because, number one, it's suddenly socially acceptable to think that way, and number two, you think, oh, wait, someone has the same opinions I do, maybe I should listen to what they say, going back to my first point about peers. So what this means in the modern age is that, for example, let's say that you were like a 1970 anti-vaxxer or whatever, like you may have that one belief, but it's really, really hard for you to like meet other people who share that same belief. But with the internet, what ends up happening is that suddenly you have a whole community, if you so choose, of people who share that same similar extreme belief. And what that ends up meaning is that because you are able to interact with these individuals on a wide scale, you are suddenly able to, I guess, strengthen your own confidence after interacting with them. So in terms of what this all means, well, there are a couple of solutions, and I don't really know them first of all because of the slide. There are a couple of solutions. So number one, we should examine our own biases. According to Scientific American, people or members of a homogeneous society, they end up being somewhat rest assured that people in their same in-group showed similar sorry, that was not the quote. According to Scientific American, members of a homogeneous group rest somewhat assured that people of their same group share somewhat similar opinions. But when members of that group realize that they are socially different from one another, they change their expectations. So what this quote is saying basically is that whenever you are around people who you assume think similar to you, suddenly you're like, oh yeah, we all think the same, we should just like, not challenge your beliefs. But whenever you suddenly realize, for example, that the people you are near have different experiences than you are forced to critically examine your own beliefs, and that means that you aren't so comfortable with your previous worldview anymore. In addition, examining your own biases can actually help you with other sources. I've already talked previously about books and the internet. Whenever you force yourself to examine the author biases and choices that you make with what you read, for example, I mostly read like white British dudes and I wonder why. What this means is that you're able to, for example, examine this idea that maybe you have your own internal biases, or maybe you should branch out and read different types of books because it means that you're having a wider range of perspectives. Finally, talking about this idea of bias. So obviously there's really not much you can do other than expanding your horizons and thinking internally, I guess, and critically about what you read. Other than those two things, I think that overall, on the whole, it's mostly up to you. And because it's up to you on how to fix this, just keep my words in mind. Thank you for listening, and you can clap now.